Babe, it's late. What are you doing out of bed? Was I making too much noise? I put my headphones on when I realized that the music might be too loud. Oh, I'm sorry, baby boy. Do you want me to make you a cup of tea? Help you settle your stomach? I think we might have some of those ginger chews in the cabinet if you'd like that better. Are you sure? I don't mind getting up and making tea for you. Or you can have some of mine. Okay. You let me know if you want some, all right? Yeah, I'm trying to finish up my notes for next week's class. I'd love some company, but if you're not feeling well, maybe you should try to get some sleep. Are you sure? Okay, let me move some of these things off the couch. There you go. Sit down. You can have some of my blanket. Yeah. Snuggle up, baby boy. Are you comfy? Do you want more pillows? Oh, how about I rub your stomach? Or maybe your head? I know how much scalp scratches relax you. You just let me know if you want me to stop. Well, we're starting Frankenstein next week. You sound like my students. What do you mean you've ever read it? How could you have never read Frankenstein? It's a classic. The movie with Kenneth Branagh and Robert De Niro was so good. Well, you know my opinion about books versus movies, but I am a literature teacher. Well, books are almost always better than movies. They provide more detail. They can be more in-depth. You can use your imagination to create pictures in your mind of what the characters, what the settings look like. Well, sometimes I show the movies after we've read the book. I'm not sure I will this time. Are you warm enough, baby boy? Huh? You should pull your feet under the blanket, pet. There. That's better. Would you like me to put on some soft music? Okay. You want me to say more about what I'm doing for class? Are you sure that's going to be more relaxing than some music? Okay. Well, first I'll start with some background on Mary Shelley. And then we will read the book, and we'll talk about its literary elements, of course. But I'll also talk about the influence of science, race, criminology, everything. Yes, I think it's important. I like to tell students that authors don't write in a vacuum. So when you read a book, you can see how the writers are influenced by things that are happening around them. Well, for example, if it weren't for a volcano, there probably wouldn't even be the novel Frankenstein. It's a good teaser, right? Oh, I see you want answers. And so do I. Are you feeling any better, babe? Would you like some tea now? No, you're just enjoying your head in my lap. Do you want to try to get some sleep? You don't need to stay awake for me. You like hearing about how I prepare for work. Now I know you aren't feeling well. Oh, it's relaxing. I don't think I want it to be relaxing to my students. But if it's taking your mind off your upset tummy, then I'm glad, baby. So you really want me to tell you what a volcano has to do with Mary Shelley writing Frankenstein? Okay. Picture it. Yes, that's a Golden Girls reference. Shh, hush. So picture it. 1815, an island in Indonesia. There's this volcano. It's named Tambora. It starts erupting. And for a whole week, the volcano spews ash and lava all over the island. There's so much dust in that area, so much ash. People described it as looking like nighttime in the middle of the day. Oh yeah, over 12,000 people were killed. Yes, it was sad. Well, that volcano was so powerful that even years later, there was enough ash in the upper atmosphere that the sun was blocked out. The temperatures around the world were lowered. Crazy weather. There was snow in New England in July, and it rained for most of the summer in Europe. Because of that, 1816 was called the year without a summer. Yeah. I guess Europe does have a reputation for being rainy in summer even now, but maybe that's how Europe has always been. Well, what does all this have to do with Frankenstein? I'm glad you asked. Picture it. Geneva, Switzerland, 1816. I don't know why that's so funny. Just do it. Good boy. Whenever I start to tell a story, I'm always tempted to channel my inner Sophia Petrillo. We haven't binge-watched anything in a while. I think we should do that soon. I know how much you love the Golden Girls. Okay, back to the story. It's a year after the volcano, 1816, and an 18-year-old Mary Shelley. Well, she was Shelley at the time, since she wasn't married. She was Mary Wollstonecraft. She goes to Geneva with her half-sister Claire and her lover, Percy Shelley, coincidentally. Very good. Percy Shelley, the poet. Percy and Mary's relationship was complicated. They got together when Percy was still married. He was separated from his wife, but they were still married, and he already had a child. They did get married later in 1860 after Percy's wife had died. Yeah, very messy, especially for the time. So another poet, their friend, Lord Byron, was also in Geneva. Oh, you've heard of Percy Shelley and Lord Byron? Boop. You weren't even an English major. I'm so proud of you, baby boy. Well, you do well in my class. I think I would be able to be fair. Let's see. Maybe I can recite one from memory. Here's the beginning of one you might know. As she walks in beauty like the night of cloudless climes and starry night, and all that's best of dark and bright meet in her aspect and her eyes. The title of that poem is the first line. She walks in beauty. Very good. I always think of you when I see that poem. Well, he walks in beauty. Tilt your head up a little bit more for me, please. I need another good boy kiss. All that's best of dark and bright meet in his aspect and his eyes. Yeah, it was recited in the Dead Poets Society. That movie about a poetry teacher. That makes sense, right? Oh, so back to Lord Byron. He was also in Switzerland. No, there wasn't a poets convention. Lord Byron had bought a villa in Geneva to escape the rumors that he was having an affair with Mary's stepsister. Yeah, Byron was kind of a playboy at the time. Scandal followed him around a lot. No, don't worry. You interrupt all you want. My students rarely ask questions, so I appreciate that you're pretending to be interested. No, I'm kidding. I know you're interested. How's your stomach? I'm glad. Are you getting sleepy? Yeah. I like cuddling with you too. Let's see, where did I leave off? So because of this volcano, the weather in Geneva, like it was all over Europe and the world, was not so great. Roads were impassable, and you couldn't even go boating on the lake. I don't know. That must have been a big deal at the time because they mention it. But because the weather was so bad, all Percy, Mary, and Lord Byron could do was hang out at Lord Byron's villa. Rough life. Lord Byron's friend, a writer and doctor, John Polidori, was also staying at the villa. And every night they would read out loud from ghost stories and books that Lord Byron had in his library. Sounds kind of nice to me. Sounds better than spending nights watching TV or scrolling on the internet when we're stuck inside during a pandemic. Library, good friends, maybe some hot toddy. Fire. Yeah. Romantic, I know. So one night, Lord Byron suggests that they have a competition where each person comes up with a ghost story. I guess when you get a bunch of writers together and there's nothing else to do, that's what happens. Imagine if a bunch of writers quarantined together during this pandemic. Stories we would have. Maybe, but I'm pretty sure no one's coming up with something like Frankenstein right now. When it was her turn, Mary couldn't think of a story to tell. But after several days of still not coming up with something, she went to bed and had a nightmare. That was my stomach. The next day, she told her friends about it. Oh, the nightmare? Well, in one of her writings, Mary said that it was caused by a conversation she'd heard between Percy and Lord Byron about how electricity might be able to bring something that was dead back to life. Foreshadowing. No, that was a real theory at the time. Scientists were practicing it on dead frogs. Yeah. And of course, that idea is the root of those things. What are those called? Those things that are used to start people's hearts? Yes, defibrillators. It seems common sense now, but back in the early 1800s, it was still kind of a scary idea. Well, that nightmare became Frankenstein, which Mary would publish 2 years later. Yeah, as a matter of fact, she wasn't the only one to produce something out of this ghost story challenge. Remember that I said John was also staying at the villa? Well, I didn't mention that he was not just a doctor, but also a writer. Well, he was inspired to write a short story called The Vampire in 1819. Yes, you guessed right. Most credit it with being one of the inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula. So there you have it. Yeah, I'll probably cover all of that in 1 or 2 classes. Maybe 3. My notes are a little messy this time. And then we'll actually move on to starting the book. Yeah, I've got it right here. You can read it if you want. Oh, I hope so. You're my favorite audience. that's for sure. Hmm. If he were actually a student in my class, though, I would probably struggle to concentrate. Oh, you would too? That's flattering, baby boy. Are you ready to go to bed now? Wouldn't you be more comfortable in the bed than on the couch? Read part of Frankenstein to you? Well, the beginning isn't all that interesting, and it doesn't really reflect what the novel is about. A different part. What if I read the beginning of the chapter where the monster is created? And if I do that, are you going to promise to at least attempt to sleep while I read? Oh, I'm sure Mary Shelley wouldn't be offended, and neither will I. Flattering, really. Close your eyes. Good boy. Let's see. Okay, here we go. So this is the beginning of chapter 5. Victor Frankenstein, a scientist, and our main character, the protagonist. Baby boy. You're supposed to be trying to sleep. Yes, Frankenstein's the name of the scientist, not the name of the monster. I guess technically it could be the monster's last name too, but that's a longer story. No, I'm not going to explain that now. Close your eyes. Good. So from the beginning, Victor has really been focused on learning about the origins of life. So much so that he's beginning to gather parts of dead people, animals, trying to make a living, He was so focused that he ignored his friends and family, even his fiancée, but they thought he was really engaged in his studies, and scientific pursuits were highly thought of at the time, so they put up with it. So in chapter 5, his experiment is brought to life. It was on a dreary night of November that I beheld the accomplishment of my toils. With an anxiety that almost amounted to agony, I collected the instruments of life around me, that I might infuse a spark of being into the lifeless thing that lay at my feet. It was already 1 a.m. The rain pattered dismally against the plains, and my candle was nearly burnt out, when by the glimmer of the half-extinguished light, I saw the dull yellow eye